David with Bolivar Live, and once again, I'm here with Chandra with Aran and Franklin. But like the last, I think, 2 months now, we've been talking about TWIA insurance and the voting from the TWIA board. It's gone now as of Monday. There was a public meeting in Galveston, and as of today, there's a public meeting in Corpus. But we're going to talk about a little bit about, Chandra was at the public meeting in Galveston. She spoke. In fact, she's got a great letter she had emailed me on what she spoke on. But Chandra, first of all, what was attendance like there?
So it was pretty well attended. It was about probably about 60 people, I guess. It was at the Moody Gardens Convention Center. So they had a room there. Commissioner was there in person and her staff. There was also the TWIA general manager, David Durden, was there. Several of the state legislators were there. So we had Senator Mays Middleton, we had Representative Terry Leo, Terry Leo Wilson, and also Cody Basute from Missouri County. Representatives from Briscoe Kane's office was there. So there was definitely some representation there. Good representation by the chamber, good representation by OPIC was there. So the OPIC didn't speak, but they're on the actual underwriting committee for TWIA. So it was good to kind of have that perspective and let them take all that in. But there were just a lot of public citizens that just spoke as well, talked about the impacts to their business. A lot of retired people spoke, that they're going to have to make some very difficult choices. And it's not just a matter of, I got to tighten my belt. It's a matter of, can I afford to stay here, right, which is a huge lifestyle change for them. I mean, they thought this was their forever home. This is where they were going to, live out their days. And now they're having to really consider, can we even afford to stay here? Is this even practical? Mm-hmm. So it's very impactful. And it doesn't sound like a lot. Okay, 10%, but when you stack the 10% on top of the adjusted building cost of 13%, and then you look at, if I have to pay an extra 10%, well, my rates go up. And if, the Keith Sahar at the big store has to pay 10% more on his products, his prices have to go up. So it just trickles down. So it's not just 10% on you, it's 10% that's spread out amongst all the other services that you use as well, because everybody's feeling that impact. So everything's going to go up, even if, it's only 10%, right? So
it's not just 10%, like you said, the cost of building increase was average of 13%. Yeah, 13%. So you're almost at 25% there. Man, that's a hit.
Well, and last year it was 11%, David. Yeah. So it's every year double-digit increases. It's so much. So it's just not something that's sustainable. And so that's one of the things that I spoke about was, okay, I didn't really speak about the economics because I knew everybody was going to touch on that part of it and the impacts of the economic impact on the citizens, and then the local economies. But I really spoke about, we know that TWIA funding has to change. Okay. Right now, after Beryl, we have almost exhausted our catastrophe reserve fund, which is our bank account, which is where we put our excess monies every year from our premiums. And we put that in the bank in case we have to start paying claims. And that's what we've done this year, right? We did what we were supposed to do with it. But what happens is when we go to buy that reinsurance next year, they look at our overall financial position. And because we have that tier of funding is gone, mm-hmm. So that means that everything else moves down. And that means we have to buy a bigger tranche of reinsurance to cover that gap that is gone now. And so they have more exposure. Not only do they carry more for the reinsurance, the whole tranche is bigger, but it's also farther down. So, right. It's lower in the stack. So they used to have a $450 million buffer before they got to them, and now it's gone, right? Yeah. So the funding, the way the funding works right now, it's like we have our bank account, then there's a layer that's what's called Class 1 bonds, which is a public security, and so we get a loan basically. Well, if we get a loan, we got to pay back.
Right.
So that's the next tranche of funding. And the next one above that is insurance industry assessments. So the insurance industry assessments, I feel, should be moved before we start taking out loans. I
Right.
think that the insurance industry has pushed all their responsibility off, and not wanting to write policies on the coast. And they want to do our homeowners policy, they want to do our auto policy, they want to do our, our renters insurance policies, but they do not want to write wind. And we
Right.
are a single peril uh, coverage. We don't have a way to diversify our risk.
Right.
They can diversify their risk. We can't do that. So I think it's only fair that they share that responsibility, but they want to write all this other insurance on the coast. So I say move that tranche down, make that be the first layer, which is assessments, then public securities that we would have to borrow. And right now we oscillate.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that I recommended was, why are we buying reinsurance? Okay, when we did our budget, I think we budgeted like $295 million for reinsurance, and it came out to like almost $400 million. I mean, that's right crazy. That's like what's in our catastrophe fund.
Yeah.
Why are we, and that's like 25% of our premium is just reinsurance. And next year it's going to be a higher percentage because we're going to need more of it. So
how often have they used the reinsurance?
Usually, only in storm years. So my thing was, why are we not saving that money, putting it in the catastrophe fund instead of writing a premium, and just say, okay, state of Texas, let's guarantee that if there's a storm, we're going to give TWIA a loan to cover that tranche of funding. And first of all, if we have to do public securities, we're paying 8.5%. Mm-hmm. The state is borrowing money at a lesser rate than that. So we could get a lower rate, the money that we need, and only if we need it.
Right.
And we could save the rest of that money and put it in the catastrophe reserve fund until such time as we need it. And if we can build that up, we may not even need it.
Yeah.
So those are some of my suggestions, and we just need to, there's a lot of people way smarter than me that analyze this stuff and really figure that out. But we've got to get our legislators on board. Okay, this is the only way this changes is if they make the change. They have to do it legislatively. We can't just change the funding structure. That is a legislative item. This all happened 50 years ago. They changed it, like I think in the 80s or something, and that's where we are now, and it hadn't changed since.
Yeah.
So
grow with the times.
Yeah, it's like let's look at the risk. Let's figure out how to share the risk, diversify it, so that TWIA is not left holding the bag. When we have 20% policy increase or premium, or I should say exposure increase over the last year. Mm-hmm. Because everybody's pulling out of the market.
Yeah.
Fun fact, one of my cousins called me. She lives in Montgomery County, and she said, I've had 2 cancellations this year. Really? The first time it was somebody pulling out of the market. The second time was that they didn't like they didn't like her barn on her, and so they didn't want to write her. So now she's having to go to Texas Fair Plan, which is the kind of the sister company to TWIA. It's kind of like the insurer of last resort, but for inland property. And so I said, this is crazy. Like, people are pulling out of the market even outside the windstorm zone. So, we've got to do something to make these insurance companies take some responsibility and share some of this risk.
Why insurance is insurance, as far as why did they separate home, and the TWIA stuff? Why not just have one insurance, and this is what, this is what you're.
And that's what they do in most other states, honestly. It's all perils are under one policy. But because of the risk and the fact that we have such a long coastline, and we have such a big exposure along the coastline with ports, refineries. Now we got SpaceX down in Boca Chica. Like, we've got a lot of exposure along the coastline, big infrastructure, big, dollar stuff. They wanted to split that off. And I don't know why we let it happen. Honestly, I don't know why.
The tornadoes running through. How many tornadoes have we seen in the last couple years?
Hail.
That's
Hail's been
yeah,
awful, you
that's
know.
about the same. But let's, as far as the TWIA meeting, what was your read on the board, the TDI board that was
Yeah,
there?
so the commissioner was very, I mean, this was a public meeting, but it was not recorded. And so she was taking notes and stuff. And she was very engaged and she was very, thoughtful. She made a few comments, but she just kind of let everybody speak mostly. And, it was very, I was very appreciative of the fact that she made the effort personally to come
Mhm.
down and really listen, because she explained at the very beginning that she takes this decision very seriously and she's weighing it very carefully. And her course of action is going to be either accept it, do nothing, which by default accepts it, or reject it. But if she rejects it, she has to list the reasons why she's rejecting it. And so I think what she's doing is really just, it's a close call, I think, for
Yeah.
her. And so she's just really trying to see what's going to tip the scales, one way or the other. There was not one person in that meeting yesterday that said, I think this is a great idea. You should have 10%. Not one person in that meeting. So
I would have hated to be that person that
I
got
know, right?
and said,
So
"Oh yeah, let's go ahead and raise it 10%." Well,
right. So
hell,
she was
let's
very
go ahead and
thoughtful. I
another
really appreciated her being there, and it was very nice to have representation from TWIA, representation from uh,
all
other,
walks of life.
yeah, everybody, the mayor of Galveston was there, Sally Baca was there. There was definitely a lot of people there that had interest, and
Mhm.
even just private citizens. So it was really good to see that cross section of people. And the fact that the legislators, a lot of times they're so busy and their schedules are so hectic. They come in, they make their 3 minutes, and then they leave.
They leave.
They stayed their whole time. They
Didn't they?
engaged the whole time. They talked to people afterwards. I mean, they're really committed, I think, to this relationship to fix TWIA. But we can't do it with 3 legislators,
Yeah.
right? We've got to get 76 votes for some kind of substantive change to the TWIA funding structure. And that means engaging not just people here on the coast, which
All over.
there's like 22 coastal legislators. We've got to move farther inland and really get those people engaged as well.
So they've got a meeting today in Corpus.
Yes.
And then when is it October 15th or 21st that she has to have her decision in?
She has to have her decision by October 15th. Okay. And October 1st is the last day to make public comment. Okay. So the written public comment, you can either mail in or you can email in. Since it was not recorded, I went ahead and took my notes that I had used for my talk yesterday, and I sent that in as a written public comment just to make sure that my thoughts were memorialized and put into the public record. And I would really encourage everyone to do the same. Up to the point of the meeting, the first meeting, they'd only had about 50-ish public comments on that. So that plus the people that spoke yesterday is, she's probably got almost 100 comments on this. And then, of course, Friday, the Friday comments will roll into that. Chairman Hunter, Todd Hunter is the chairman of the one of the boards, and actually he just had a public hearing, a couple of weeks after the TWIA board meeting, and the commissioner was there, and man, he was grilling her hard. He was really tough on her. And so tomorrow, the tables will be turned on, for when he's speaking to her, but she was very gracious, and I'm sure that she's going to let him speak as long as he needs to. But the other very important thing that she said, we got light. The other very important thing that she said was that my position has not filled yet. My coastal position on the TWIA board has not filled, and so they're still looking for applicants for the 4 positions. And there's 2 coastal positions, so you have to live and or work in the coastal region and have some. You don't even really have to have a real experience with TWIA, but just some familiarity.
Right.
with how it works. And if not, I mean, I will tutor you. I will hold your
Yeah.
hand. I will get you through it. Okay. But we also need an inland representative. So someone 100 miles or farther inland that wants to be on the board.
Okay.
And then there's an industry representative, which those will fill because
Right.
the companies will put somebody up for that. So we really can't survive with one coastal representative.
Yeah, we need to.
I mean, it's hard enough with 3 to really get our voices heard.
Mm-hmm.
We really cannot be without a representation.
Okay.
So it's scary to me. And I've reached out to as many people as I can, and it's not a hard process. It's an easy application. You just have, a quick application process. You have a little quick interview with the commissioner or her staff via Zoom, and that's it. So I mean, it's not a hard process. Now, granted, I did mine 9 years ago, so
yeah.
it's been a few minutes, but it's an easy process. So the other good thing is if we get to the end and the commissioner does decide to accept the 10%, we still have the option of the governor setting it aside.
Right.
That has happened in the past. It could happen again. I don't know what the temperature is on that. I know that some of our legislators are putting pressure on the governor already to make sure that if it does come to his desk, that he pushes back. So we're already seeing those things put into motion. But
when will the final decision be made? If it had to go to the governor, when would that have to be in then?
He can make that decision at any time.
Okay.
So October 15th, what happens is if she allows the 10% rate to be put into place, then TWIA has to start motions. They have to start getting, start looking at their renewals that start in January, because they have to kind of have a 60-day lead time. So November 1 is when their renewals will go out for January 1.
Okay.
So they have to be starting to tell people, okay, this is your new premium for your January 1 renewal. So they have to have like October 1 to be able to start all that paperwork. So he could tell them at any time. And of course, we could always refund back any overage of premium. But still, I mean, it's easier if he would make that decision sometime between the 15th and the 1st.
Right. Okay. Well, we're going to follow this through all the way. We started it when it started, and we've been doing meetings on it or shows on it ever since. I know a lot of people have made comments to me on the road or on the beach, wherever they catch me at, talking about it. And so, it doesn't just affect your home or business, your home policy. It affects business down here, because if employees can't afford the insurance to live here, then they can't work here. So, we'll be back next week with more information on this and try and get a feel on what rumors we're hearing and what's going on in the saga of the rate increase. So
that's right.
Sandra, thanks for joining us.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned. This has been a stay tuned for about the last 6 weeks, I think. Well, thanks for joining us, taking time this morning, and we'll be back next Friday with more information on this for everyone. I'm David with Bolivar Live. Y'all have a great day, great week. Come see us. God bless, and bye-bye.